hate to say it, but his parents have been feeling unwell as of late, and I'm staying with them to help take care of Alex.
Oh, so it's serious.
Oh, no, it's not serious. Nothing terminal. It's just a touch of consumption.
And welcome back to Horror Queers. We're talking, I know I shouldn't have let that broad back here. We're talking, who knows, maybe she's pregnant. And we're talking, take it easy, pal. Not all of us have got enough money for a Mazda. Some of us have to work for a living. And I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace, and we're talking the things they do with special effects nowadays.
What are you talking about? We just saw a werewolf lady on TV.
The news lady's turning into a werewolf.
I mean, here's the thing. You would 100% think it was special effects.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, well, I don't know. I mean, if you were watching a regular news program, like, they're not, well, maybe not today, but like in the 80s, I don't feel like you'd be thinking, oh yeah, this legitimate news program is going to be doing a special effect showcase and act like it's a real werewolf transformation.
I don't know, maybe if it was around April Fool's or Halloween, people would think it, but I mean, yeah, otherwise you just have a bunch of people saying fake news equivalent in 1981.
Yeah, and a lot of news stations are jokes nowadays because of the Trump administration. So,
yes.
But we're not talking about that, everyone. We are talking about Joe Dante's 1981 werewolf classic, The Howling. And yes. I believe this is a favorite of yours, Joe, isn't it?
I mean, favorite is probably too strong a word, but I do like this, and I think I've actually seen this more than An American Werewolf in London.
You know, I actually think I have too, but I do like An American Werewolf in London more than this.
Okay, I think that one is a more complicated text. I think that this one is a bit more fun, although I will confess I hadn't seen it in quite a few years, and you watched this first, as per usual, and you messaged me and said I would have taken a longer version of this film, and it had never really occurred to me, but when I was watching it for this rewatch, I did feel the same thing. I was like, oh, there's just a bunch of things where I wanted that scene to breathe a little bit more. I wanted us to just let a moment land before we had to move on so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, this movie is a flat 90 minutes, so it's in and out. So I do respect it for that, but I remember I remember the first time I saw this, I was a little disappointed because, you know, this is definitely one of those, I'm going to say college watches. I don't even think I saw this in high school. So I was doing my cleanup of like, okay, what are the big horror films you haven't seen yet? And I remember being so surprised at how this doesn't feel like a werewolf movie for the first 40 minutes.
Right. I think that's part of the either subversion or what makes it distinct from so many other werewolf films. Like, I think that could be considered an asset. But yeah, if you're going in expecting, oh, wow, this film is known for its practical special effects, the transformation sequences, it's a bit of a slow burn to get to them.
Well, and let me say, like, that's what I felt when I was 19, 20 years old. I don't feel like, I do think it's an asset actually nowadays. And doing more research into the production and the marketing campaign, they actually did try to market this as more of a slasher movie and leave the werewolf element as the surprise you get halfway through the movie, which, I mean, is what happens. But I think if you walk in going, oh, this is a werewolf movie, you're like, wait, what the fuck are we doing for these first 40 minutes?
Where are my werewolves?
But do you remember the first time you saw this?
I think it probably would have been in university as well. I think I got a DVD of this for like really dirt cheap back when I was collecting, I think, horror movies for a Halloween party that I was throwing. And I was like, oh, I think it's $8 or something for a Howling DVD. And I thought, yeah, I don't think I've ever seen this. Let me check it out. I've heard good things.
Yeah, I definitely, I mean, I knew the box art for this movie because I didn't know the box art for this movie is fantastic.
My favorite. One of my favorite movie posters.
But okay, well, why don't we, I actually have a lot of production for us, Joe.
I mean, yeah, I imagine you've got a lot on just the effects alone.
Yeah, honestly, it's really just how this came to be. But I mean, obviously, yes, the effects, because this movie comes out 5 months before An American Werewolf in London. And I gotta say, I mean, I don't want to pit the two like major transformation scenes against each other because but American Werewolf is kind of the most famous one because it wins that first like special makeup effects Oscar. But I gotta say, the transformation in this movie is awesome.
Yeah, it just seems to have different kinds of components. So I agree. I don't think pitting them against each other is necessarily productive, but I I could understand if people have one that they favor more than the other.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're just different. There's a lot more stretching in American Werewolf in London, but in The Howling, it's a lot more bubbling.
Yeah, so many balloons, I'm assured.
Air bladders is what they are called.
Okay.
But I'm pulling pretty much all of this. So I've got two sources. One is the making of documentary Unleashing the Beast, Making of The Howling. And this is on my 2013 Scream Factory Blu-ray, but it looks like this documentary was actually filmed in 2003, I'm assuming for the DVD. And then also Primal Scream, An Oral History of The Howling by Adam Karsten for Consequence of Sound, written in 2021. So we had a 20-year making of documentary and a 40-year making of oral history.
There we go.
So, okay. The origin of The Howling is that a movie theater owner named Steve Lane wanted to get into the movie business. And he had, much like with Irwin Allen and the Poseidon Adventure, was like, okay, let me go read a bunch of books and see what I can make into a movie. And
right.
He read Gary Brandner's 1977 novel, The Howling, tracked down the rights to Warner Brothers, who had actually acquired them 2 years prior and done nothing with them.
Oh, just sitting on it, huh?
Basically, yeah. And I wonder if that's what studios do, like they see like a book that could be a hot hit and they snatch up the rights, but like just so no one else can take them. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We did it since the time of, definitely Psycho, but maybe even earlier.
The days of yore. He discovered, though, that Warner Brothers had actually resold the rights to director Jack Conrad, who, this guy's sole directing credit was a really low-budget movie called Country Blue in 1973. Not a horror film, it's called Country Blue. But Lane bought the rights from Conrad and teamed up with him. And Conrad, wrote a script based on the book. And the plan was for him to direct the movie. Now, I should point out that there are 3 Howling books, Joe. So there's 1977's The Howling 2, which is a direct sequel to the first book, and then 1985's The Howling 3 Echoes, being a standalone sequel.
Right. And folks, we do have an audio commentary that's going to tie into the second Howling film. We'll talk a little bit more about how that film deviates from the book. So if you're expecting us to talk a lot about the book, Travis, I have no idea how much more information you're going to give us, but we will have a bit more to say later.
I have a bit more to say about why they don't try to adapt the book so closely, because that's kind of the thing. But I will say, the second book seems to still follow the Dee Wallace character, who obviously does not survive into that second film, so... But anyway, so at some point during all of this, they made a deal with Avco Embassy Pictures, which was then being run by Robert Ramey, former head of Roger Corman's distribution team.
Oh, okay.
Roger Corman's going to be a name you hear a lot in this production history. So,
shocker.
Ramey was working with producer Dan Blatt, who brought in another producer named Michael Fennell. So we've got Ramey, Blatt, and Fennell, okay?
The producers are adding up, is what I'm hearing.
Basically, yeah. But this is going to be the end of the producers. So, but Blatt and Fennell also came from Roger Corman, so that they all kind of sort of knew each other, and they loved the idea of reinvigorating the werewolf genre, because by 1980, like, it was kind of seen as an old hat genre by that point. There weren't really any successful werewolf films. I mean, honestly, it's kind of like American Werewolf and The Howling did for werewolves what Scream did for the slasher film in the 90s.
100%. Yeah, it's like basically a 1-2 punch, and all of a sudden werewolves are hot again.
Yeah, and tongue-in-cheek, and self-aware, and metatextual to a certain degree. So the two of them started working with Conrad on pre-production, but Fennell and Blatt slowly began to realize that Conrad, again, like a rookie director, might not be the right director for the job. And mainly because like a lot of his ideas like didn't seem to be based... Like, he wanted to use real wolves for the movie, which never would have been allowed.
I mean, you could try it, but I feel like that would be very tricky.
Well, but the thing was this, though. The movie had already been greenlit by Ramey, so the movie was going to get made no matter what. And they thought, well, if we keep Conrad around, it's not going to be a very good movie, and we have to make it. So he was dismissed with the age-old reason, creative differences, but still got a producer credit on the film.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So they had to get a new director. And Fennell and Blatt both apparently immediately thought of Joe Dante, since they had both worked with him on his 1978 film Piranha, which was a New World Pictures film, a.k.a. a Roger Corman film.
So it all ties back.
Yeah, pretty much. But okay, here's the fun thing. So at this time, Dante was in the middle of pre-production on Jaws 3 People Zero, which...
Yes.
That's what this was at the time before like that fell apart and became Jaws 3D. But Dante had a pretty good feeling. He was like, this is about to fall apart. So as soon as he got the offer, it's like, hey, come over here. We'll do a werewolf movie. He
jumped ship.
He jumped ship. Yeah, exactly that. But he looked at Conrad's screenplay and was like, ooh, this needs to be rewritten. And he said that Branner's book was one of those books that reads fine when you're on the bus, but if you really like think about it, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And Conrad's script was apparently just a really bad adaptation that took dialogue straight from the book, but the dialogue was like unspeakable in a movie.
I love that we're describing it as a bus read. You know, to me, that's almost somehow worse than like an airport paperback. Like, you wouldn't even take this to the airport. You would only read it on the bus. It's a step below.
Not fit for planes.
Not fit for planes.
Oh boy, what a class system. So they hire Terrence Winkless, best known now as the director of the 1988 killer cockroach movie The Nest, to rewrite this script. And again, like at this point, he didn't have a ton of credits to his name, but I wonder if he was just kind of one of those guys that was kind of known as, hey, like he can come in and kind of doctor up your script a little bit.
Right. Yeah, maybe.
What he did was a huge improvement over the original script, Dante said, but it still wasn't quite there. The main issue being that it was still too faithful an adaptation of the book. And so the
just throw the book away, leave it on the bus.
That's what it was. So the feeling was they needed a completely fresh approach. And so we go to screenwriter John Sayles, who Dante knew because A, Sayles wrote the screenplay for Piranha, and Sayles had just written the screenplay for 1980's Alligator, so he knew a thing or two about creature features.
Also, Alligator.
Oh, yeah.
Hey-o,
Alligator's
folks.
so good.
Wait,
so good.
Do we do an audio commentary on that, or do we just both really love that movie?
Honestly, it's one of those things. You and I have talked about it so much, but maybe it was a commentary, or maybe we didn't.
Think so.
Well, it's really good, y'all. Seriously.
It's so good.
So good. And John Sayles would go on to be a film director as well. Not like too much in the horror genre, but you know, he's done a couple things, but
dabbled.
Yeah. Anyway, they told him, look, ignore the book, save for the basic premise, which is, you know, like a colony/cult of werewolves. And
right.
Sayles was fine with that because when he read the book, his main issue was that it was too obvious who the real werewolves were. So I guess the book is presented as, also kind of a thing where it's like, you know, it's a werewolf, but like, who is the werewolf? And it's like, well, it's clearly like the colony of people. So
yeah, I can see the slasher inclination then because it's a bit of a whodunit, right?
Yeah. And so then I'm like, I wonder if maybe it was a thing, again, much like Scream, where it's like, you go in thinking it's going to be one werewolf, but it's like a bunch of werewolves, you know?
Maybe.
I don't know. So they all started talking back and forth about a couple of things, and it all kind of clicked when Sayles asked, what if this is a movie where the characters have actually seen a horror movie? So they don't seem so clueless, and there's a little bit of, oh, come on, this is just like the movies to their dialogue.
Huh. What a concept.
I know. Look, again, just like Scream, the parallels continue. The other major component that Sayles brought to the film, and this is something that I think on a first watch, I didn't really pick up on because I wasn't in the early 80s looking at a lot of these self-help groups, but like he brought in a gentle satire of the state of like therapy at the time, because Sayles actually was a psych major in college and was all too aware of these new age self-help organizations that were so big. Like EST was one up in Northern California. That's one I only knew about from The Americans, the TV show.
Me too. I didn't even realize it was real until after I finished The Americans.
Yeah, me too. And we name drop Scientology directly in this movie. But a lot of therapy at the time had you believe that the real problem was always repression. It always came back to repression. So the werewolf metaphor became, well, what if there was no repression? What if you just did whatever came to your mind? You know, it's the id basically is what the werewolf is. So he came up with the idea of an Est-like place that was all werewolves, and werewolves trying to deal with their inner beast and channel it, which Sayles just thought was really funny. So it's one of the things where, like, I mean, there are funny moments in this movie. Like, I always reference the werewolf grabbing the file from the file cabinet.
That's my absolute favorite. But I would argue even that moment doesn't truly feel like a comedic beat.
Yes, that's the thing. And so, like, I don't think there are jokes in this movie. I think it's a lot of situational comedy where it's like, and again, for some of the psychotherapy stuff where it's like, I wonder if people in 1981, when they saw this, they picked up on this and thought, oh my God, that's so funny. That's even in this movie.
Right. That does feel quite a bit more topical. Like, even watching those scenes about, you know, the group therapy and the other things happening at the colony, that was one of the areas I wish we had have just spent a bit more time, because it feels like we arrive at the colony and things just happen immediately. And I was like, oh, let this movie cook a little bit more.
Yeah, I thought the exact same thing. And it's a thing where, maybe in 2026, it would help to have maybe more of that context. But in 1981, the audiences didn't need that context because they were living it.
Yeah, they were living through it, because that was probably the height of it.
Exactly. So then when it came to the werewolves themselves, he referenced werewolf lore from mythology, not just films, mainly because they wanted to get rid of the whole idea of people changing under the full moon. And I love this reason. It was because it didn't suit the purposes of their plot, meaning if they had to wait like on a monthly basis for like the 3 nights around the full moon, they wanted to take place in a smaller time frame. So they just changed it to, oh no, people can change at will. There you go. No one's questioning that. Let's move on.
Yeah. And I've got a reference that I'm going to use. And according to this person, so it's Nat Bemmer writing for his own Medium site on the film. But one of the things that he argues is actually that this film is the first to really jettison that idea and try to strike out, basically cover some new ground about how the werewolf mythology really works, because previous to this, it was always full moon.
Yeah. And I mean, ever since 1941's The Wolfman, like we had so many werewolf movies and all done a very specific way. And so I almost like the idea. I mean, again, I don't have any, because I haven't seen every single vampire movie ever made, but it seems like werewolf movies were thinking about changing the lore before vampire movies even really started to kind of like interrogate their own lore.
Yeah, play around a little bit with it. And folks, we're probably overlooking some really obvious examples, so do let us know if you can think of some. But for me, there just aren't that many werewolf movies, and it is interesting to see which rules we always follow. And I will say, I think that the Howling kind of carves out its own path in some of these regards.
Well, and again, for them to not be so beholden to these rules, they said, "Oh, we changed this because it didn't suit our plot." So,
which is a great reason to change something. It's that's not the story we want to tell, so we changed it to better suit what we were looking to do.
Exactly, and I love that kind of cavalier attitude around it. The internet didn't exist. There was no we
didn't have to worry about the backlash.
But that's why we get the Dick Miller bookstore scene where he's like, "Oh, that's a bunch of Hollywood baloney," which at the time would have felt pretty subversive for a film of this type, which is essentially a low budget monster movie.
Right. Yeah.
So Sayles went to work, and the final draft of his script was turned in on March 4th, 1980. Casting director Susan Arnold, who was the son of Jack Arnold, the director of Creature from the Black Lagoon, she brought in Dee Wallace because she liked her performance. I love this. Not even in The Hills Have Eyes or something like that, but she liked her performance in Blake Edwards' trend-setting 1979 film 10, the Bo Derek film.
Oh, right. Okay.
She wasn't necessarily a method actress, but apparently, it was really interesting seeing Dee Wallace in a lot of these interviews because she got really into the horror moments, but while not being a method actress, she had a hard time pulling herself out of them. So they would have to give her longer breaks. She got really psychologically involved. She also she was very uncomfortable in the porno store sequence. That's not even acting from her because she was just I don't this is very uncomfortable for me.
Oh, wow.
She had a clause in her contract that was this can't be a nudity film, and during the big climax at the barn, when she initially filmed it, she walked in and all the female werewolves had their tops off, and she basically said, "What is this?
We're not doing that.
We're not doing this." And they had to have
Roger Corman's over in the corner smoking, being like, "Oh, come on!"
Yeah, I mean, she basically, "I'm not going to film this," and they had to have a producer come over, and she was like, "Look at what they have," and he looked at all the girls' boobs and was like, "Yeah, she's right. This is dumb. Put their tops back on." And
why would their tits just be out? Makes no sense.
It was just to attract to again a certain market to be like, "Oh yeah, look, there's boobs all over this movie."
I mean, here's the thing. We definitely do get full frontal nudity in this film, but female only, and we barely see male butt cheeks. It's cool. If you want to get the ladies to take their tops off for the finale, gentlemen, drop trap.
Yeah. And then she actually was responsible for getting her husband, Christopher Stone, cast in the film as her partner, who's a huge piece of shit in this movie.
I hate him so much.
Yeah, yeah. I always thought that she got divorced from Christopher Stone. He died from a heart attack in 95.
Oh.
I know. Filming lasted for 28 days in May and June of 1980. The film's tight budget allowed for only minimal sets to be built, so the production relied heavily on real locations around Los Angeles, which included some of the city's more seamy and colorful destinations.
I like it. I really like the look of this film, and everything feels very grounded and naturalistic to me.
But it's also very colorful, right?
Yeah. I love the neon.
I love this. There's a quote from Dante. He says, "If a movie is not really in color, then it should just be in black and white. If you don't use color, then it's just there. So we wanted this to be a color movie as opposed to a movie that was just in color." And I love that.
Yeah, put that on a throw pillow, but for real, that is a great quote.
But then after filming in LA, they moved briefly to Mendocino in Northern California for the scenic landscapes and the greenery. And the way Dante puts it is that anything in the film that looks like offbeat was shot in Mendocino, and anything that doesn't look offbeat was shot in Griffith Park in LA.
Fair enough.
Now let's talk about these special effects. So Dante and company told Avco Embassy that they were going to be the first werewolf movie to do a transformation scene with no cutaways, and it was all going to be done on camera. Now, the previous method of showing these transformations in film was to do a lap dissolve, where the end of one shot gradually fades out with the next shot simultaneously fading in.
See the aforementioned Wolfman. Yep.
Exactly, yeah, just like that. If y'all go back and listen to our episode on An American Werewolf in London, you'll hear a version of the story I'm about to tell you. But now here it is from the other side. Initially, Rick Baker was going to do the special effects for The Howling. But John Landis had been developing An American Werewolf in London since the late 1960s. And he had a gentleman's agreement with Rick Baker that was hey, whenever I get this off the ground, you'll do the werewolf, right? And Baker was absolutely. Sure. But it was more than a decade and he still wasn't able to get it off the ground. And it was just pure coincidence that as soon as Rick Baker signed on to The Howling, John Landis got the okay for American Werewolf in London and was hey, my werewolf movie is good. And Rick Baker's ooh,
I'm already working on one.
I'm doing The Howling. John Landis apparently tore him a new one and was no, you told me you would do this, so come over to me. And that's exactly what happened. So basically, Rick Baker had to leave The Howling and he put in charge his second in command, 19-year-old Rob Boughton, who had worked with Dante on Piranha. And according to everyone, he was very young, but he was a genius. But I was I know, dude, a 19-year-old coming on to do the era-defining special effects in your werewolf movie.
Ooh, intimidation. Big shoes to fill.
Now, he was able to come up with a whole raft of things based initially on Baker's original tests that didn't involve keeping the actor in a chair for 6 hours to have makeup applied by using fake heads, animatronics, in ways that hadn't really been done before. But they're saying this, and I think that was maybe the idea, but I know that Eddie Quist actor Robert Picardo would be in the makeup chair for 6 hours for some of these shots.
It looks like a combination. Sometimes the werewolves do look a little animatronic, and not in a bad way. I think actually in a very good way. Some of these effects still just look totally fantastic. It is shocking how well this movie has held up. But there are other times where, you can definitely tell it's the actor with makeup applied to them and so on.
Yeah, I think when you're seeing more of those air bladder bubbles, that's him with things on his face. But then at a certain point, once his face becomes a bit more wolf-like, then it becomes an animatronic head or a puppet. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, while Dante was finishing principal photography, his co-editor and fellow New World alum, Mark Goldblatt, began to assemble The Howling. But it quickly became clear that some of the film's special effects were not working in the editing room, especially the pivotal Eddie Quist transformation and the scene in which Terry gets killed. So,
so two of the most important aspects of the film.
Yes, exactly. So when they originally shot Terry's death scene, Boughton didn't have a lot of money to make full werewolves. So when Dante was shooting this scene, they were using a werewolf head and some werewolf hands, but you didn't have a full shot of the werewolf standing in front of her to really kind of establish that sense of scale.
Right. You need that. You need the money shot.
And that's, it's a practical werewolf. And what we get in the final result, even though it's not, moving around because it's a giant fucking puppet thing, it still looks fantastic in the shots.
Looks so good. Yeah.
So when they were shooting this the first time, you had to keep moving the camera so that you didn't see the arm of the guy who was holding the head. So you didn't have any really good shots. It was, honestly, go look at The Howling 2 for some of these insert close-up shots as to how they got around that in that movie.
Speaking of ripping the film a new one, we may have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, well, The Howling 2 is,
it's a hoot.
It's a hoot.
Not a good movie, but a hoot.
Looking for a fix, Dante and his producer Fennell Fennell asked Avco Embassy for more money, but they wound up getting an additional $50,000 from their investor, Westcom Productions. So I guess Avco was like, yeah, go talk to your financiers. Go see if they'll give you more money.
Oh, you want more money? Go talk to the money people.
They got the money, and they came back 3 months after principal photography had finished with a full werewolf suit to do Terry's death scenes. And these reshoots lasted about 2 to 3 days and were shot by cinematographer Gary Graver, best known for being Orson Welles' final cinematographer. But this is what worked. This is what got us to have these amazing practical effects in this film, because, then they got to add more to Eddie Quay's transformation scene as well.
Oh, that's interesting. That's not the cinematographer that's listed on the Wikipedia page. So did they bring in someone new? Yeah,
Gary Graver is the new guy. So it was, I guess, the original one.
John Hora.
Yeah, John Hora. So he was not there for the 2 or 3 days of reshoots. But
interesting.
Yeah, so that's kind of wild, right? But like the porno store opening with all the red lights, like that's John Hora. All this colorful shit, that's what he was working on with Dante.
Okay.
So The Howling opened on March 13th, 1981, and this is how you know it's an older independent film, because it had 170 theaters, mainly in New York City, Philadelphia, and the Washington, D.C. and Baltimore area.
Okay. So just the big areas.
Yeah, but it was pretty successful thanks to a very clever marketing campaign. As we said, the poster was just a claw ripping through a screen, and behind it's a woman screaming. It was subtle, but like I said, it didn't highlight the werewolf, and it was very intentional because Dante and Fennell convinced Avco Embassy to, in their words, soft pedal the werewolf stuff to make it look more like a slasher movie, because not only would this have been really popular in 1981, especially, but Avco was really good at marketing slashers anyway, because that was the bulk of their output.
It is so wild. It never even occurred to me that is part of what the marketing is trying to do, because I've always known The Howling. I mean,
as a werewolf
fucking
movie
called The Howling, so you think everyone knows it's a werewolf movie. But yeah, if you divorce yourself of that knowledge and just look at this poster, like the nails look like werewolf nails, but if you don't, you would just think, oh, they're a bit long and scraggly or something.
Yeah, exactly. So if we have any listeners that were alive like during this time period and were like paying attention to this kind of stuff, like I'm dying to know if you knew it was a werewolf movie when you walked into the theater.
Ugh. What? Can you imagine walking into this thinking it's a slasher and then being like, it's a creature feature? Well, surprise.
And look at things today when it's like, oh, it was mismarketing. That wasn't the movie that was marketed to me. And it's like, I feel like nowadays people consider that like a negative, but I'm like, oh, but sometimes it's kind of like, oh, I like the surprise. It's not the genre I was expecting it to be.
Right. Yeah. I think as long as you still like the movie, then it's a positive. If you feel like you got a bait and switch and then the movie's not good, I want my refund.
But The Howling did open to mostly positive reviews. We're looking at a 76% on Rotten Tomatoes, and Letterboxd users have given this a 3.3 out of 5. But while it was well received, its success was not an immediate boon for Avco Embassy or Joe Dante, because it wasn't this big success, but it wasn't a flop either. It earned about $18 million on a budget of 1.7. So the multiplier,
that's really good.
Yeah, exactly. But it's still I guess when you're looking at Friday the 13th, which is making $40 million on a $500,000 budget, it was just, I don't know. I wonder if the shift in what a low budget horror film could do, there were different expectations at the time because of the success of something like Halloween or Friday the 13th.
Very, very likely, especially if we're thinking about we use similar marketing, we treated this like a slasher film, kind of a same return on investment, except this one is so much more expensive than those low budget indies.
Well, and compare this to American Werewolf in London, which had a budget of about just under $6 million, but it made $62 million at the box office.
Yeah, it's a huge difference.
But it was one of those movies that grew over time and got a following over the years. And also, I mean, as seen by those cities, Avco Embassy didn't have the kind of distribution deal that the studios had. American Werewolf was Universal Pictures.
Right. I mean, the other interesting thing, and you can quibble whether this is a barometer of success, but we have 8 Howling films, and we only have 2 American Werewolf films.
Oh, boy. Okay, so these sequels. Okay, so Avco Embassy never made a profit for 5 years off of this movie, apparently.
Wow.
And they decided that they would sell the company shortly after this film came out. And it sold to, of all people, Norman Lear, sitcom master.
Yeah, which is a total disconnect. He would never have liked this.
No, he didn't. He decided he didn't want to make any more of these kinds of movies, so the entire slate of everything they were developing, horror related or especially Howling related, was wiped out. And I think that's how we get to 1985's Howling 2, Your Sister is a Werewolf. And again, everyone, go listen to that Patreon audio commentary. We have so many thoughts about that movie. But the sequels, as you said, Joe, didn't stop there. So we got 1987's Australia set, Howling 3 Marsupials, the last Howling film to get a theatrical release and the only PG-13 rated film in the franchise.
Oh, okay.
Apparently that one's wild. I have it on direct confirmation from my husband and some friends, but
All right.
shares the same director with Howling 2 as well. But then we have the direct-to-video sequels. So we've got 1988's Howling 4, The Original Nightmare, which is a more faithful adaptation of Brenner's original 1977 novel.
Okay.
1989's Howling 5, Rebirth, a European Gothic whodunit, and they did it this way so they wouldn't have to focus as much on special effects. So,
Okay, so they cheaped out, but also, even just your description has me intrigued.
Dude, honestly, The Freak Show set, 1991's Howling 6, The Freaks, which takes elements from Branner's third standalone Howling book. 1995's Howling New Moon Rising, which apparently recycles a lot of footage from the 3 previous films in order to link their continuity together.
Okay, and also, that's one way to make a cheap, low-budget film.
Very Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2.
Well, yes.
And then finally, we have 2011's The Howling Reborn, which is a reboot of the franchise.
My God, I fully only thought that there were 7 until we started prepping for these pair of episodes. I didn't realize that the most recent film was so recent.
Yeah, 15 years ago. But I mean, look, I don't think any of these have a positive reputation, but
Right.
there was a time.
Are they wild? Are they fun?
Well, that's what it seems. So at least some of these early ones. I mean, 2 is definitely fun, and apparently 3 is fun as well. But like the Freak Show one, I was like, that sounds pretty fun too.
It sounds bananas.
But there was a time in my life where I was going through every major horror franchise, and I just never even considered The Howling as something to marathon. But honestly,
no, we may be changing our minds.
I might want to do this pretty soon, actually.
I mean, it's the height of summer, everybody. What else are we doing?
What else are we going to do? Just watch all the Howling movies. I mean, obviously, the film's legacy speaks for itself. Also, like, this movie is the reason Dee Wallace was cast in E.T., because Steven Spielberg saw this movie and was like, oh my God, I love her, put her in E.T. And
here's the thing. I think her performance is really good in this movie.
Oh, she's really good in this movie. And Dante also thinks that it got him Gremlins, because the script for Gremlins was just sent to him in the mail because Steven Spielberg is a producer on Gremlins.
Yeah, I mean, a pretty good upscale, like, no offense to Roger Corman, but like, to sort of start there in the classic, very B, very grindhouse exploitation-y kind of area, to suddenly be handpicked by Steven Spielberg.
Yeah. And I again, like, not to pit these transformation scenes between The Howling and American Werewolf too much, but when you're looking,
let's just do it.
But when you're looking at a budget, so this budget is a third of what American Werewolf had, and like that they're able to do this much with and granted, on a $50,000 reshoot still, but still, like, this is really impressive for how little this movie cost.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But Joe, what happens in The Howling? Do you want to design your own custom miniature? Hero Forge offers fully customizable tabletop miniatures with dozens of fantasy species and thousands of parts to choose from, all within your browser. Working with materials like color plastic, acrylic standee, and bronze, and offering downloadable model files for users to 3D print their unique designs at home, Hero Forge is constantly expanding its catalog of customization options, adding new parts every week and major features like new species and custom posing on a regular basis. And as a listener of the Horror Queers podcast, you get a special deal. Use code HQ to get 5% off on all orders of physical miniatures. Visit HeroForge.com to start designing your custom miniature and dice today, and check back often. New content is added every week. And remember, use code HQ to get 5% off on all orders of physical miniatures. Not combinable with other sales or promotions.
Okay, so I will say, I really like the way this movie just drops us in the middle of things.
Oh, yeah, right into a TV screen. The title card with the breaking glass. I love it.
Okay, so we have snippets of a man writhing. We have no idea what the context is. This is being crosscut with Dr. George Wagner, who is played by Patrick McNee, who folks may recognize from things like the original The Avengers,
which we've been talking about a lot because of our episode on Theater of Blood starring Diana Rigg.
Yes, his co-star. So apparently The Avengers should be coming up soon on Horror Course Podcast. No, we're not going to do that. The movie is a horror film, but not for the right reasons. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so he is on TV talking about his new book, which is called The Gift, which Yeah. Like, does this sound like The Secret
I was
before The
gonna
Secret
say,
became a
it's The
thing?
Secret.
Jesus. And he's saying things like repression is the father of neurosis. And he's name dropping concepts like animal magnetism. So he seems, I mean, from our perspective, from a contemporary perspective, he's very new agey and a little bit of a quack, but he is treated with reverence. Like, he is the person who you go to whenever you need any kind of profile, which is good because we are in the middle of a serial killer spree. And that's part of the reason why we've invited him to come on and talk about it. Like, we need to know what is going on in the mind of this killer.
Yes, which again, it feels very like, it feels so prescient for where we were going to go in the future. But
yeah. So in the control booth, we're introduced to Bill Neal. He is played, as you said, by Christopher Stone. This guy's face is just so 80s. Maybe it's just the mustache, but
yeah.
I was like, he looks like Brian Krause's dad, if Brian Krause had a dad, in Sleepwalkers.
Yeah, he looks like a porn actor.
Oh, 100%. Yes. I'm not mad about it, but I do want to punch him throughout this entire film.
Yeah, I think that is the thing. Like, I mean, on a level, like, I get the relationship where it's like, okay, like, he now has this quote unquote hysterical wife because she's experienced a big form of trauma. But the one failure of the screenplay is that the quickness with which he just kind of like drops Karen White, Dee Wallace. It's like, I'm like, okay, like, did you ever love her? Like, you seem really annoyed with her, and it's been like an indeterminate amount of time since her traumatic experience, but not long enough to where I think you should be like, oh my God, like, get this woman off my back.
I hear you. I have a theory.
Okay.
We can talk about it now, or we can talk about it later.
No, I'm sure it's like werewolf hypnotism or something, but like...
well, Doc just introduced this concept, right? It's animal magnetism. So I think part of it is that if you get bitten or scratched by a werewolf, then maybe there is that kind of connection. But also, credit to Marsha, because she's sexual as hell. So...
yeah, she is.
You know, they meet and you immediately get the sense that she is taking an active sexual interest in him. So yeah, when, you know, Karen is turning him down for sex, and when he also is starting to feel the effects of this lycanthropy, then maybe all of a sudden the boundaries just fall away immediately and we go to Pound Town. But I do hear you. I was shocked that it's basically second night and he's fucking some new lady.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're not there yet. So basically, Bill is very, very concerned. Is Karen his wife or just his girlfriend?
It is, yes. It is her husband. Yes, it is.
Okay.
And I will say, like, this is kind of a big difference from the book right here. So in the book, Karen is not like a news anchor woman. She's just a middle-class wife. But rather than having this experience in a porno store, she is attacked and raped in her home.
Oh, shit.
Suffers a miscarriage and has a nervous breakdown. And then she has to go to, this, like, therapy colony.
Right. Okay, well, I'm kind of glad that we don't do that, because that feels like it would be really heavy for a film of, let's say, this level.
It would sleaze this movie up a little bit more. I do think this movie has a pretty significant sleazy component to it, but
agreed. Yeah.
Adding sexual assault, I mean, even in 1981, I just feel like it would just not, it would feel a bit too
It's going to change the vibe a lot. Yeah. Okay. So Bill is concerned for Karen because, as you said, she is a reporter. She's typically a news anchor, but she has been in contact with this serial killer who is Eddie. And so she has been asked to meet him out in the fucking city. So
so this killer has been calling Karen. It's like Black Christmas style Billy, like, lewd phone calls. And her bosses are like, you know what? Why don't you go out into the public and see if you can, like, you can be the bait.
She's bait. Yeah. But here's the thing. So she is out on the town. I like that her introduction is her not taking shit from a guy who was blocking her path as she's trying to get by, because I'm not going to lie, it does suggest a different kind of character than we actually get. Karen is much more fragile for most of this film than the initial introduction, but also we have to understand she goes through a very traumatic incident.
Yeah, I actually think this moment is very key because it does show you that she does have this kind of like take no bullshit attitude and like more agency that is destroyed by this traumatic experience. So I think you have to always have that in the back of your mind where it's like, no, but she has the capability to be this. She just, for understandable reasons, is not for most of the runtime.
Yeah, she's recovering from it. She's finding her way back. And I think she mostly gets there by the end of the film. Again, I think another scene or two could have really helped to sell this transition and make her I think, a little bit more formidable, or even just reassert, no, this is who Karen always was. Because for most of the film, she's shell-shocked.
I think the final scene of the film is meant to be the whole, like, okay, this is her coming, maybe not full circle, but this is her transformation. Literal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's asserting control of her own life. She's got her agency back.
Yeah.
But here, we know that she is mic'd. We know that the police are out there sort of keeping an eye on her, but they also don't have eyes on her because we cut to this cop car where there's an older police officer, a younger police officer, and they're like, we don't know where she is exactly, but she's dressed in lavender and lilac, so she's hard to miss. And you're like, okay, well, where is she? Why don't you have eyes on her?
I do love to, I mean, just from a technology perspective, too, where it's like she keeps talking to her team, but when we keep cutting back and they're like, oh, shit, we've lost the signal. So she keeps talking to them. And it actually adds some, like, horror to the scene when she does walk into the porno store because it's like she's talking to them and they cannot hear anything she is saying.
Yeah. She thinks that she has a whole team of people behind her and that she is safe. And she doesn't know, oh, you've been cut off. You're actually on your own right now. Yeah, so we do see her walking the streets, neon, gorgeous, walks into this sleazy porno shop. She scares all of these male pervert customers away because, you know, if it's the 80s and you're in a porno shop, you're a pervert.
Oh, I should point out, too, she had to use the phone booth earlier. Roger Corman is the man standing outside the phone booth waiting for her.
Oh, fun. Okay, okay. So she ends up going into the back because she recognizes a sticker, which clearly Eddie had cued her to look for.
So another contextual thing. So apparently this smiley face sticker was like a phenomenon that was happening in the country at the time. And Dante hated it so much. So he made the smiley face the emblem of Eddie Quist, basically to be like, this needs to stop, y'all. Like, stop this.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah. So we're making it sound like this is all very linear, but actually we're cross-cutting back and forth between Karen's story and then also the kind of low-key pandemonium that's starting to take over the studio because they realize, we've lost contact with her. So it's Chris, who I have as a technician in my notes. He's played by Dennis Dugan.
Okay.
He will come to be one of the main characters of the film, but initially you just think he's one of the guys who's responsible for keeping the communication lines open with him and Karen, and he's the one who says, ooh, I think we've lost her.
Wild piece of trivia that I was shocked to find. This is probably the most shocking thing I found out. So Dennis Dugan, he went on to be a comedy director, directing many Adam Sandler comedies like Happy Gilmore, Big Daddy, I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry, You Don't Mess with the Zohan, Jack and Jill, Just Go With It, and both grown-up movies.
Jesus. That is like more than half of Adam Sandler's filmography.
Yeah, he's been nominated, needless to say, for several Razzie Awards, winning once in 2011 for both Jack and Jill and Just Go With It.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. Here's the thing. You can change professions or you can move into new roles, I guess.
I was like, oh, wow, the director of Happy Gilmore is in the Howling.
Like, and not a small part. Like, I would argue that there are about 3 co-leads of this movie, and Chris is one of them.
Chris, I actually do like I like the Chris and Terry dynamic a lot. Terry played by Belinda Pulaski. But it's a thing where it's like, but Chris is very much the, we've got to go save the damsel in distress at the end of the movie. And that's the only thing I really just don't like about it. I like his character. I just don't like the role he plays in the climax of this movie.
Yeah, and I think that's why it is so important to remember Karen's journey in this film, because if you lose sight of that and you think, oh, she's just having nightmares and she can't really protect herself, and Terry also needs a certain amount of rescuing, it really feels like if you're only looking at the film through that perspective, then this film feels very indebted to traditional gender roles, which is like not super exciting.
Honestly, you're right, except for the Marsha of it all.
Right. I mean, we will talk about Marsha. Okay, so Karen ends up going into this booth with the smiley face sticker, and almost immediately okay, so we mentioned the cinematography by John Hora. I love the way that the lighting works in this particular scene. So Eddie is here, but you can barely see him. Like, she sits down and you don't even really realize that somebody else is there until we see his hand put the coin in the slot. And then we're seeing their reflection or their shadows projected onto this rapey porno. But then we get an almost halo lighting from the film that's playing, because when we cut back to face them, like you can very clearly see Dee Wallace, but you can only kind of see Eddie.
Yeah, it's like a silhouette, but as you say, it kind of has a halo effect to where you like. There's something about the silhouette. I feel like on a shot by shot basis as we move further along in the scene, where he does seem to get a little bit like his silhouette changes basically as the film goes on. And of course, if you know, you're like, okay, he's changing into a werewolf, obviously. But if you don't know that going in, you're like, what? Like what is happening? There is something horrifying about it. To me, I actually think this is the scariest scene of the movie.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the rest of it is pulpy and kind of fun. I think there's a couple of really, really good attack sequences, in part because the werewolves look really good.
Yeah.
But to me, this is the scariest legitimate moment. What interests me is that I sometimes conflate this scene with Cruising, which comes out literally the exact same year, because it's both serial killers where we focus on their lips and they've got very specific ways of talking. It's melodious and kind of sexy, but also dangerous. And there's an almost identical scene with a murder in Cruising in like a porno booth.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I love it. Like, I think that's part of the reason why I think that this movie is so sleazy. It's like it's carrying over a little bit of sleaze from Cruising. Yeah,
and actually, so Cruising would have been the year before this, but I mean, go listen to that episode, everyone. But like, it had a troubled road to release. So I do wonder if Dante or Sayles had even seen that when they wrote this.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like a homage. It feels like a coincidence.
And I mean, this, I do, again, I think it's the scariest scene of the movie. I also think it's the most visually striking scene of the movie.
Me too. Yeah. Even just the way that Eddie says things like, I want to make you feel, make your whole body light up.
Well, and I guess that's the holdover from the book, because Karen doesn't get raped in this movie, but the threat of rape is always there coming from Eddie.
Yeah. It's kind of wild how we can create such a sense of menace, and he does feel so pervy, but we don't actually see anything like that.
No, but his I mean, we'll talk more about it in his transformation scene, but like in this scene, it's like, I'm going to light up your whole body, Karen.
Yeah. So, needless to say, we have managed to track Karen to this sex shop, and the cops come in. I wrote in my notes, it's so irresponsible. This younger cop just lights up the entire booth. He ends up killing, allegedly, Eddie. But like, Karen was in there, and she could have so easily been shot and killed.
Well, and again, we get this great, because he tells her, like, turn around, Karen, like, I want to give you something, because he hasn't been letting her turn around and look at him for this entire time. And we only get to see the look of horror on Dee Wallace's face, and she sees something that scares her so bad. She immediately represses it. Yeah, she forgets about it. We have the amnesia, which again, I'm like, ugh, like what jack-off motion. But
here's the thing, though. Like, we do know that when people go through trauma, they will actually repress it. Like, their memory does this for them in order to protect them. So I do kind of like that. It's not quite pop psychology, but it's not pop psychology.
I think it works for me in this movie because I think, well, because we're dealing directly with like a therapy group where the entire goal is, let's recover your memories. Yeah, it's not a lazy device. But it's like, oh, the character has forgotten until it's convenient for them to remember, and they'll remember it. That's the perfect time for the film, just when they need to do it. Like it plays an active role in the plot of the movie, and it doesn't feel like a lazy narrative contrivance.
Yeah. Okay, so we have managed to kill this serial killer, and Karen has not been harmed apart from the fact that she is very clearly shell-shocked by all of this. So Bill ends up taking her away from the crime scene. We get to hear it play out on the news that night, and I really like the shots of her as she's being treated by medical professionals and stuff. Like, so we see the crowd, and it's a lot of shots of men's faces looking at her. And there's the flashbulbs from the people taking pictures for the news, but also the red lights from the EMT and that kind of stuff. And it's all just sort of playing out in Karen's hazy mind. And again, it really just, it endears me to her as a character. I feel like we're going through this together.
Yeah, and there's something too about it. It's almost like the dreaded Vaseline filter from those early scenes of RuPaul's Drag Race. But like I feel like I see that a lot in like horror movies specifically from this time period, and it always works for me. It really looks really good.
Yeah. There's something lurid and melodrama about this, but I don't mind. I think it works to the film's benefit.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we kind of move directly from this to her at home. She's trying to recover on the couch, but she's clearly having nightmares where we're seeing these flashes of what she has been through, but she herself does not remember it.
And this is some good practice for because Dee Wallace, I mean, she has a lot of freakouts in this movie. Big practice for the movie she would make next, which is Louis Teague's Cujo, where she is doing nothing but freaking out for that entire movie.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so meanwhile, we have Chris, as well as his girlfriend, Terry, who you mentioned is played by Belinda Balaski. They have kind of taken over. So we're going to talk about a couple that's dominating the sequel and how that couple does not work for us. I don't feel that way about Chris and Terry. Like, do I wish that Terry had a little bit more agency and she wasn't so reliant on Chris to come and save her? Sure. Do I like them as a couple? Like you said, yes. And I do think that they're doing a certain amount of exposition heavy lifting to help us understand, like, who is Eddie? What do we, like, we need a body, but also we need somebody to go in and find more drawings and make phone calls and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I really like Terry, honestly. And it's not even that she's written super well, but I just like Belinda Balaski, which she was a holdover from Piranha, by the way. That's how Joe Dante knew her. But yeah, I think... And maybe this is just me with a modern, like, kind of gender role mindset. I think it would have been more subversive to have Chris be the one to get killed and have Terry be the one to come save Karen at the end.
Sure.
Because even listening to Dante where he's talking about Karen, and it's not like in a flippant way, but it's like, oh yeah, you know, Terry's like the best friend she comes to help, so of course she has to die. And I'm like, but you could have switched that out. You could, but I guess it makes more sense for Terry to be the one to come first to see Karen instead of Chris because they're closer friends. But I really like Terry. I mean, again, she's the one doing the investigation. Karen isn't doing much investigating in this movie.
Karen is just trying to recover, and Terry ends up being the de facto investigator, and that's what they're doing right now. So they have discovered Eddie's apartment. I love that we take a beat to say, should we call the cops? And it's like, how did you find this place, and why haven't the cops?
Oh yeah, and then we had this to me, I think a really good jump scare, which I think has been redone several times. The dog. Oh no, I love it. Look, if this was happening in a movie today, I'd be like, okay, of course, come on. But it's 1981. It feels it's early enough to where I like it.
No. I wrote in my notes, it's a weak dog jump scare.
No, I love it because there's not even a music stinger to it.
Okay, fine.
It's fine.
I will give it that.
We won't debate the jump scare, but it's fine. Also, I wrote in my notes, I don't know when it starts in this scene, but Pino Donaggio's score in this movie is loaded with a church organ. And
yes, so much organ.
Apparently, he planned the entire score around the church organ because he found it and was like, oh, I'm going to use this. And that's how we got. I had no recollection of the pipe organ in this movie's score, and now I love it.
But it is very
so
memorable.
I love a pipe organ. Like, that's honestly one of the reasons why I love Nightmare 5, The Dream Child, which everyone hates, is because of the pipe organ in the score.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I like the score in this movie, and I do think it works very well.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically what we have found in this apartment is a bunch of drawings, some of them of Karen, some of them of other things, as well as, newspaper clippings of the entire murder. So it's like, yeah, this is definitely Eddie's apartment, but we're taking certain things away as clues for the future.
To which I'm like, okay, yeah, that really is evidence for the cops.
Oh, 100%. Like, we're lifting up evidence that the cops would want.
But one thing they do take is a landscape drawing that will come into play later.
Yes. Okay, so Karen is experiencing some intimacy issues with Bill, and when she tries to go back on the air, so when she tries to go back to work, she ends up freezing on live TV. And I will say, I really like the way that we shoot this as well, because it very clearly evokes the memories that she had when she was shell-shocked and she was seeing the men's leering faces and the lights and that kind of stuff. So we zoom in on the aperture of the camera as she's supposed to start talking, and it's like, oh, all eyes on you, which is something that the station manager, I think I get this right, I could not find the names for the station manager or her co-anchor, so I apologize if I'm confusing them, but I'm going to say the station manager is Fred Francis, who was played by Kevin McCarthy. He's a piece of shit. He is the guy who's like, maybe she's pregnant. He makes a racist comment about replacing her with a clearly Asian-coded woman who we never meet. But he's like, I don't know, what's her name? This? And it's like, oh my God, you're awful.
Yeah.
But before she goes on, he says, everyone's going to be watching you. And it feels predatory.
Going back to the initial attack scene, where like in the book it was a rape sequence, and yeah, you did say this, but like she's watching a porno that is very rapey. And so in this sequence, like she's seeing the rape porno she was seeing earlier in the aperture of the camera, and I kind of like that. I guess maybe that's the workaround, where we don't actually have Karen be raped in this film, but she is traumatized / attacked while a rape scene is playing in the same room she's standing in. And, we get that one scene where, she tells Bill, like, I'm just not ready yet. And he doesn't look too annoyed by it. And I think that's meant to be the thing where it's, okay, this is the one thing. I guess I wish there were maybe, I don't know how many more instances that we need, but I don't know, to establish a better passage of time to see how quickly Bill is like tired of this response from her.
Yeah, because it truly does feel like between the attack sequence and then the scene of her on the couch and then the scene where she is rejecting Bill and they're in bed, you would think it's been maybe a couple of days at most. And even something like, it's been a week, it's been 3 weeks, she's coming back to work after a month. I think that would help us to better understand, oh, wow, this is lingering. Like she is not okay. Because I like that she ends up going to Doc. Do I think she should have gotten a proper therapist as opposed to the guy that they bring on for the news segments? Yes. But it's clearly someone that she trusts and she is trying to work on her issues. And this is, the movie needs to clip along. So it's basically, how do we get Dee Wallace out to this fucking colony place? But I do agree with you. I think it would have worked better if we could have just established, oh, it's been quite some time and maybe Bill is getting frustrated with it or something like that. Maybe
that's the B movie of it all, where it's like, we got to get to the good stuff. Like, we can't waste too much time on this human drama.
Character development? What?
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, Doc encourages her to go up to his country retreat, which is called the Colony. So she and Bill both drive up. I do like that he doesn't just kind of send her away. He does plan to accompany her. And in the car, she even confesses she's not sure she ever wants to remember, which I think is a really interesting piece. The movie doesn't do anything with it, except to say, oh, wow, she really, truly does not remember much except for she doesn't like what she is remembering.
Right. And we get a really good comedic beat with the cut here, where she's like, well, I hope these people aren't too weird. And then we just smash cut to them like having this barbecue on the beach.
Yes. And our introduction to this group is Earl. He is the old man who complains about his teeth and wants things to go back to the way they were. He's played by John Carradine, but he is howling as they arrive on the beach. And you just think, okay, I love it because if you know it's a werewolf movie, okay, here we go. But also, it just feels like a commentary on how people would approach something new agey and experimental. Like, this is very clearly a kind of commune, and these people are weird.
Yeah, but they're not weird enough to where you're like, oh, we need to get out of here.
No, it's just, oh, this is going to take a beat or two to get used to.
And I think that's also the commentary too, where it's like this kind of like culty atmosphere was normalized in the early 80s because of all these therapy groups. So it's like, oh yeah, they're not going to leave because this is quote unquote normal for this type of therapy or whatever.
Yeah, and I think I said earlier that this is like the height of it. That's probably wrong. I know that stuff like therapy and even counseling did start to take off more as the 80s progressed because we were really starting to see the divorce rates going up and that kind of stuff. So this might have been on the earlier side of it, but it would have been trendy. I think these kinds of things would have been gaining steam, or people would have at least been familiar with them.
And it's interesting because I feel like that excuse of like, oh yeah, it's therapy, like people don't leave because it's normal for them. Like we discussed something similar to that in last year's movie Opus, which does something very, but I think again, that less successfully so than The Howling does.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so let's introduce a couple of these people. So the main guy who's kind of welcoming them is Jerry Warren. He's played by James Murtaugh. He has a wife named Donna, who's played by Margie Impert. We have a cattle guy named Charlie Burton, who's played by Noble Winningham. He provides them with the food that they're eating on the beach. And then, of course, we have the sexually charged interaction between Bill and a kind of witch-coded Marsha, who is played by Elisabeth Brooks. And we should note that Brooks did identify as queer in real life, and she was in a long-term relationship with actress Christy McNichol, who was in a bunch of really popular sitcoms like Family and Empty Nest.
Yeah, and Brooks sadly died in 1997 from after struggling for several years with breast cancer.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So she is, I think, one of the most interesting people in this film, not just because Marsha really does stand out from everybody else, but also because I think of the way Brooks plays her. And maybe this is where I'll bring in Nat Bemmer's piece, Marsha, the legacy of the Howling, and one of horror's most unsung femme fatales on Medium. But one of the things that Bemmer really credits Brooks as doing is when we're seeing Marsha, we can see that she is just so different from everybody else, because what we'll come to understand is that this is an entire commune of werewolves, but they're all trying to repress that animal side. They're trying to mix in with humans. They're trying to blend because Doc has encouraged them to live alternatively. Like, don't fall prey or don't submit to your animal instincts. Be like a regular person. That's why we're eating cattle and so on.
Right.
But Bemmer says, with specific regard to Marsha, we barely need to see her as the werewolf because we feel it in every single scene, in her eyes, in her voice, in her presence, the way she physically dominates every scene. The wolf is there.
Yeah, there's something very animalistic, even just about the way she looks, in addition to her performance. And I think maybe one of the only real shames about the rights issue and having to like make Howling 2 like a completely different film that couldn't be like a direct sequel to this movie is that, because there is kind of a Marsha stand-in in Howling 2, and the Mariana character ironically played by Marsha Hunt. But I feel like Elisabeth Brooks would have been a good, if we could have carried this character over to that film, she would have occupied that role, because I want more of Marsha in this movie. Like, I find her such a fascinating character because she doesn't get a lot of interiority in this film.
No, she's very much just the antagonist, because we're siding with Karen, and Marsha is a threat to Karen's relationship with Bill. You know, I love the moment where we call her a bitch in Heat because of its double meaning.
Oh yeah, and I mean she's like no pomp and circumstance. Like Bill's like, oh, I'm looking for my wife, and she's like, why?
Yes, yeah, and that is one of the things that I really like about Marsha in this. So the other thing that Bemmer says about Marsha is all of the other werewolves put on a show, whereas Marsha does not. She's the only one of the werewolves who is completely direct in her approach and her intentions. She starts hitting on Bill from the moment she is introduced to him because she knows what she wants, and then decides simply to take it.
Did they say Marsha Quist in this scene? Like, did they say Quist? I don't remember if they actually ever say that in this moment.
No, it's because it's meant to be a reveal.
Okay.
When we've got Terry finding out that there's a couple of people who are related to Eddie.
Yeah, it's Marsha and TC.
Yes, her brother, who is unhinged. We describe him as a bloodhound later on.
Yeah, he gives off the Hitchhiker in Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes.
Yeah, he's a little feral, a little unpredictable. That is a great, I really like that suggestion of a character proxy.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, Marsha, not subtle about the way she's interacting with Bill over the punch. Karen kind of clocks this, but also doesn't, because she's being escorted around by Donna and so on. But throughout all of this, we're also seeing that Earl, the older man who was introduced Howling, he seems to be looking at everything very sadly. He's kind of observing the party, but he's not a part of the party. And then he just kind of torpedoes the evening by loudly declaring he wants to end it and nearly jumping into the fire until Dr. Wagner guides him away.
He's like, oh, Earl, he's such a colorful character, you know, but he'll be fine in the morning.
Yeah, so we'll just keep an eye on Earl as we move forward. So that night, we have Karen's recurring nightmare, only it's now starting to interface with some of her new experiences. So we do actually see Earl screaming in the fire mixed into the imagery that she has been repressing. So past and present are starting to mix a little bit. And she wakes up to wolves howling, and she even checks out the window. She's a little freaked out, and she wakes up Bill because she, was very uncomfortable. And this is where you start to realize, oh, Bill's a total piece of shit, because his response to being woken up, sure, you're sleeping and your wife is scared and you're just like, Jesus Christ, you're an LA girl and this is the country. But he's so condescending when he placates her. Like, he's so dismissive. And people have said, this is basically an entire movie about a community gaslighting Karen.
Very much so. And I think that this just feels like such a dramatic shift from Bill. I mean, Bill didn't seem like the best husband before this, but again, he didn't seem terrible. And so for him just to brush this off as Karen, it's just the wind. That's the actual excuse he gives for when she's like, oh, there's howling coming from the woods.
Yeah.
I just wrote in my notes, this guy sucks.
He does. He totally sucks. And I agree with you. I think even if we could have just spent a day, like, show us what does the group therapy look like? What does the routine at the camp look like? Have Bill start to slowly get maybe lured away a bit more by Marsha, or just, put the distance between him and Karen. And I think that this would go down a little bit easier, because you're right, it does feel like a very dramatic shift from just when they were in the car.
And maybe the implication is he's already met Marsha, so Marsha's already got her hooks her claws into him somehow.
Yeah.
And maybe that is the implication that's meant to be, but it's not. I don't know. It just seems like a too dramatic of a shift for me at this point in the film.
He seemed like an okay but still caring husband, and now he seems like a bit of a shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do like that the scene doesn't even end here. So he basically just goes back to bed, and she ends up getting up and making a fire because she can't sleep anymore. We get a brief POV shot of someone coming up to their cottage or to near the front door of their cottage, and Karen ends up coming outside to kind of look around. She sees something hanging off of a tree. I think it's a piece of either her outfit from earlier or just like a piece of lace or something, a kind of material. But we see that Eddie is actually watching her from the bushes. But I will confess, I didn't know if this was Eddie or TC until I paused it and rewound.
Yeah, I wrote Eddie in my notes. And he again, because he's kind of transformed here a little bit, I think.
He's a little transformed. Like the eyes, there's a kind of shadowing around the chin and the edges of the face. But the reality is we're meant to believe that Eddie is dead. So I think it's purposefully, is that Eddie? Is that who we think it is? Or is it somebody else who's just watching her?
Yeah, it's supposed to kind of throw us off our game, I guess.
I think so, yeah. So in the morning, we're introduced to another new character, Sheriff Sam Newfield, who is played by this name trace. This is a real person's name.
Slim Pickens.
Slim Pickens. Fucking love it. So he is introducing himself on the tennis court where Karen is playing with Donna. And we discover back in LA that Chris and Terry, when they go to the morgue to check out the dead meat, the place where Eddie's body should be is just gone. He's not on the gurney, and we do have scratch marks on the inside of this case.
Yeah, I love this reveal. Also, this mortician is I think he's like a joke mortician, because he's really not taking any of this very seriously.
No, I mean, the everlasting joke is that every coroner we will meet in a horror film is always eating something or is not taking their job seriously. This guy only falls into the latter category, but
he's like, oh, that's weird. Huh. Yeah, that body's gone.
Actually, just since we've been introducing all of these people, obviously, we're going to acknowledge we have not said it to date, but most of these people are actually named after famous werewolf movie directors. So it's very Final Destination 1. It's very meta. So yeah, again, this movie does have that winky kind of vibe to it, but it's not obvious about it at all.
Yeah, I think a movie that does the exact same thing with the names, I want to say it's Night of the Creeps, where we name a lot of people after like Mr. Craven or something.
Right,
but you're right. Yeah, I mean, again, that's the thing is there is humor in this movie, but I don't think it's presented always as such.
Yeah, it's such a specific in-joke. I'll confess, I didn't even pick up on it. It was only when I was doing a bit of research for this, and people said, yeah, most people don't even catch that.
Well, yeah, because even going back to Night of the Creeps, I'm like, right, I think there are jokes in Night of the Creeps. There are definitely funny parts of that. Yeah. And I don't get that. I think, too, on a first-time viewing of this, where I had heard, I have seen this described as a horror comedy. Not everywhere, but I've seen people describe it as such. And I
don't agree.
Yeah, I would say more tongue-in-cheek than a horror comedy.
There we go. Yeah, that's a better descriptor, I think. Yeah. Okay, so we quickly jump to that night as Karen and Donna are out investigating. It's very like Nancy Drew, where we've got a flashlight and the two girls are just out wandering around, getting to know each other a little bit, and they stumble upon a dead cow.
Okay, I love that. I'm sorry, I'm not really sure how cows are supposed to sound, and there's like this awkward moo. not like that.
See, I didn't even think it was a moo. It sounded like a full-blown howl to me. And I was just like, ladies, that sounds like a wolf or a coyote or some kind of animal. But there's this interesting moment that I think is a tiny little bit of foreshadowing because the flashlight ends up failing and Karen gets kind of freaked out. You know, she starts saying, like, oh, no, oh. And Donna goes, what's wrong? And that's meant to be a cue that Donna is a werewolf because her eyesight is still really good in the dark.
Yeah, and that is something I wish like Donna were developed a little bit more too, because even in the game where she's revealed to be part of the werewolves, I was like, okay, but like you were like Karen's friend in all of this, but when Terry wasn't here, so I wish we could have like again like had some of the fallout with like Donna, like what are you doing from that? But
yeah, Karen really doesn't get a lot of time to process the big reveal because she has to immediately fight for her life. But I do like that moment where Donna reveals herself and says, you know, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. I resisted it at first, but I've come to accept it as a gift.
Yeah.
And I like that line. I just wish we could have, again, sat with it a little bit, have a little bit more of Karen saying, I need to interrogate this and you.
Because it's like, oh, they all turn against her, they're going to kill her. So it's like, okay, well, I think to me, for Donna to see like, okay, yeah, we're going to have to kill you, Karen. Like that seems like a big deal. And the movie doesn't grapple with that at all.
No, but also we kind of lose Donna as a character.
Yeah.
Like she's here in the first act to get Karen acclimatize, but then we just put her aside because we do have to focus on Terry and Chris's investigation.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so in the morning, Bill gets a quick bit of firearm training, and that's because he's joining the other men for what we call a wolf hunt, where he ends up shooting a rabbit, and he's quite pleased with himself.
He sure is.
Meanwhile, Karen is in group therapy. They're trying to help her with her repressed memories, but all of this urging of, what do you see? Karen, what do you see? Not helpful, everybody. And of course, she just panics and puts a stop to it.
I thought the same thing. And I was like, okay, like if Dr. Wagner wasn't here, I'd buy more into this because Dawn is really one that's like, Karen, what do you see? What do you see? But I was like, Dr. Wagner, maybe like back up a little bit with this shit. Also, this group, I know it's group therapy, but like maybe like the other members shouldn't be participating in this like repressive, like.
It's so intimidating.
Yeah, very much so.
I do wonder, though, actually, just based on the conversation we had about Donna, maybe this is Donna trying to get Karen to come to a certain level of acceptance so that we can get to work on getting her ready mentally to become part of this group.
Yeah.
Because that is the intention, right? From the beginning, I think Doc wants her here because he thinks that she could be helpful. Like, I think they always plan to turn her and Bill into werewolves.
Yeah,
no?
they do. Yeah, because that's what they'll talk about later in the film, where they're like, Bill is fine, but like, why would you want to have her here? Because people know her, and for Wagner,
she's so high profile.
But for Wagner, that's a good thing. It's like, yeah, if we get someone high profile like this, then we can like bring other people into the fold. We can be accepted. I mean, that's also there is like that queer undertone to it, right? Where it's like we just want to assimilate with society, but then of course the end is like a mutiny where they're like, no. We are the new society. Fuck everyone else. We're going to rule the
and
world.
also, we don't need to dim our shine, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's, I think, one of the reasons why Marsha, to me, is such a queer icon, because she's aggressively sexual. She goes after what she wants. She's not going to be shut down by people saying you have to behave or act a certain way. And she says, no, I won't deny who I am just so I can fit in with society. Like, fuck that shit.
And I think there's some, I mean, again, there is a relatability to that, especially, again, looking through a queer lens. And it's not the movie we're watching, but it's almost a thing where I'm like, okay, well, what if we did have some more scenes from the werewolves' perspective or something, and we had some commentary on like the social ostracization that they were enduring because of this or whatever.
Yeah. The problem is that because we're treating this like a bit of a whodunit slasher, we can't reveal that until the end of the film.
Exactly. So that's why, again, it's all subtext here. It's not something the movie's actually grappling with. And whether or not that was intentional on Dante's and Sale's parts, I don't know.
Think so, but it's very much here.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, so Chris and Terry, let's touch base with them and how their investigation is doing. They visit a specialty bookshop / novelty kind of store, which is owned by Walter Paisley, who is played by Dick Miller.
Yeah, fun fact. So, because I'm sure you've heard of, if not seen, Roger Corman's A Bucket of Blood from 1959, but
heard of it, haven't seen it.
It's probably one of Dick Miller's like most famous Roger Corman performances.
Okay.
But Walter Paisley is the name of that character in that movie.
Oh, that's kind of fun, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So he is basically here to drop our exposition lore on werewolves for the film. So what we learn is that they can change at will, not just during the full moon. You only kill them with silver bullets or fire, or they will regenerate and come back. So this is our telltale sign that, oh, that was Eddie we saw in the bushes. That's why he was able to escape the morgue, because we didn't do it the right way, so he has managed to regenerate.
Yeah.
So back at the colony, we've got TC. So this would be Marsha's brother. He's the skittish, weird one.
Mm-hmm.
He is encouraging vegetarian Bill to eat this rabbit that we have shot. So if you kill it, you should eat it. And then he suggests that Bill should go to Marsha, his sister, and she will prepare the rabbit for him. And it very much feels like, you should go fuck my sister.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Like, the rabbit's the honeypot, I guess.
It's the excuse to get Bill isolated and alone with Marsha, which is exactly what happens. She doesn't even try to pretend. Again, it is so refreshing. He's like, are you going to cook the rabbit? And she just looks at him and says, maybe later. Because she wants to fuck.
She tries to seduce him. He does push her off, to his credit.
But only after starting to kiss her. You know, we go into the kiss, and then it's like he realizes, oh, I probably shouldn't be doing this. And then he pushes her away.
Well, and it's like, oh, poor man. His frigid, traumatized wife just won't have sex with him and blah, 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 blah. So he's taking this first, woman that's coming after him. And yeah, but... really, it's kind of over because he pushes her off, and then we kind of cut to the night, and he immediately gets attacked and bitten by a werewolf, who I'm assuming is Marsha.
Yeah, the attack is so sudden, so brazen. I kind of love that he's this big, strong man. He just gets taken down in the middle of the woods. I had a thought as we were talking about how the shift in Bill seems so sudden. It reminds me a little bit of Slither, which we just talked about briefly in Independence Day last week. This feels like Grant behavior, right? Things aren't going super well with my wife, so I just immediately turn to the other lady who is showing me attention.
The difference is, it works better for me in Slither, though, because it's kind of clear that
it's who the character is.
Well, but it's clear that Starla and Grant's sexual issues have kind of been going on for, again, a significant amount of time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Okay, so Bill has been pretty severely injured. We need to get him patched up. So Karen takes him to Doc. And this is also as we get Chris and Terry actively doing research in bed, watching The Wolfman. Which is very fun. It's very metatextual.
Again, this is Randy showing everyone Halloween and Scream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they end up getting a phone call from Karen about this attack, and Terry decides, I need to be there for my best friend. I'm going to drop everything and drive up to the colony in the morning. Chris insists that she is just being influenced by the film, so he doesn't fully agree. He's not completely on board. He's going to stay behind.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then we've got Karen and Terry catching up on the beach. It's a really beautiful outdoor location. And Karen comes clean almost immediately. She says that she's really paranoid about Marsha getting together with Bill or trying to hit on him. And here's a funny beat. So Terry notes, oops, she forgot that Bill is a vegetarian and she didn't realize that she had only packed a meaty lunch. And we just see Bill being like, it's totally fine. And he's scarfing down this lunch.
He says, I get hungry enough, I'll eat anything. And I was like, no vegetarian I have ever met has said, if I get hungry enough, I'll eat meat.
I've seen a vegetarian throw food out because it was cooked on the grill where meat had been prepared beforehand.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. But I think that's showing Bill's convictions. Again, he's a bad vegetarian. He's a bad husband.
No, this is symptomatic of his transformation into a werewolf.
I know.
Imagine he's just like, oh my God, you're a terrible boyfriend and a bad vegetarian.
Even worse, a bad vegetarian.
That's why you deserve to die in this movie, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
So Karen does try to get a little bit frisky here because she recognizes, okay, he seems to be interested in this other woman. Let me lock him down. Let me show him that I'm still sexually attracted to him. And he's the one who turns her down here. He claims it's because of his wound, but
the shots he was getting, which I was like, I guess maybe rabies shots for his bite wound, but
probably.
But you really feel for Karen in this moment because it doesn't even really seem like she wants to do it that much. It's more like a for him, I'm doing this thing. But
right. We've talked about this a couple times before. Sometimes you're just not really in the mood, but you go along with it because maybe you'll get there,
Yeah.
but also you understand it's an important part of an adult relationship, which, folks, we're not suggesting that you should have sex with people if you don't want to. Like, consent is very important. But in this case, I agree with you. It kind of feels like, okay, well, I need to prove to him that I still want to be with him, so let's give this a go.
Yeah.
I love her line because it's so sad. She almost seems to lament or bemoan, we never want the same thing at the same time.
Yeah, it's just they're out of sync. And I was like, I mean, look, my husband and I have been in those situations too,
Sure.
where it's like, one of us is in the mood, the other one's not. It's like a pattern of over a significant time period where it's like, oh my God, like what's wrong with this? And at the end of the day, communication helps with that kind of stuff, y'all. But
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Karen laments this before she then has another nightmare, only this time Bill is starting to show up in it. And I love that, sure, on one hand, you could say she knows something is wrong. She's kind of internalizing and she's putting it in here. I love that this is also proof that, you should be afraid of Bill because he is going to attack you later. You're not safe around him anymore. Her brain seems to know it.
Well, she wakes up and he's gone. And she's just like, well, screw you.
Yeah, well, screw you. And meanwhile, she is right to be pissed because Bill is just out there meeting Marsha by the fire and we get down to fucking. And this is one of, I remember watching the film the first time and thinking the transformation was really good. And also this particular scene, because I was not expecting full frontal nudity from Marsha, side bum from Bill, whatever. But also, I love the idea that they transform into wolves as they are fucking. The animation is not great.
I actually really like. I mean, it doesn't fit in with the rest of the aesthetic of this entire film. But it stood out so much because of that I actually did really like the animation. But I totally get why it wouldn't work for someone.
It's very novel. It's unexpected. I think. To me, it's the 1981 of it. This very clearly is not CGI. We don't have that kind of budget. We don't have that technological capability just yet. I like it that they tried. I guess I just wish it looked a smidge better.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is that low budget, right? Where it's like, we're putting all the money for that one transformation. We can't do it for this too.
But they went for it, which is, it's admirable.
But you're right. And actually, I think you just unlocked the memory for me. I definitely did watch this in high school. It was a Netflix mailer because I remember watching this scene while my mom was cooking in the kitchen behind me. And I was like,
God.
oh my God, please do not let her look at this vagina.
A fine vagina.
But I do, because we get some close-ups of their faces as they're mid-transformation. If you weren't sure this is a werewolf movie, you definitely know now.
You know.
But I do like the close-ups of their faces as they are having sex with their werewolfy faces.
I love how we're both if you didn't know it was a werewolf movie, we saw Bill get attacked by a werewolf.
Oh, yeah. Well, that could just be a regular wolf. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. So in the morning, Terry realizes that Eddie's drawing matches the colony's view of the shoreline. So she just holds it right up and it is a perfect match. And then someone lures her to a nearby cabin or cottage by calling her name. And then we get this extended set piece where she is attacked after, a werewolf hand breaks through the door. She has to go out the window.
Yeah.
She kind of hides under the porch. We get this really tightly, intimately framed attack sequence where the arms are just grabbing at her. She has managed to grab an axe and she ends up hacking off this hand, which we then get to watch as it transforms from hairy to human.
I think this is so cool. It's a cool way to anticipate the future full body transformation we're going to get. But just this hand effect looks really good.
Me too. Yeah, I thought so as well.
I do want to highlight too that the production designer for this film is Bob Burns, who was also the production designer on Tobe Hooper's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I think that is very evident in Marsha's cabin.
Yeah, it's a lot of bones kind of clinking away in the wind. And I really like the production design specifically on Marsha's cabin as well as this one, which, basically Terry has found out, this looks identical to Eddie's apartment in the city.
Yeah.
That's because this was clearly Eddie's.
Very much so. But I think this is a really, really, it's not a chase scene per se, but it's a really good set piece. And the way it kind of builds, because I mean, I don't know if you really fully expect to see the werewolf here, but we have, it's like banging on the door, and once she's under the stairs or whatever, ooh, boy, yeah. It's all very
really good.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of think, okay, well, that's it, because she's done it harm. It's going to go away. Let's reset. Let's get a little bit of calm in here. But no, she just, Anna Faris in Scary Movie runs over to the center so that she can call Chris on the phone. We do have a bit of a quick reprieve where he is saying, okay, well, is there a file cabinet there? Look to see if you can find Eddie's file, because at this point, Terry has begun to suspect that Doc must be involved in some capacity, because this is all taking place on his watch. Mm-hmm. So we go looking for the file, and then this is, arguably the most subtle comedic beat. We just have her looking through this file, realizing, Marsha as well as TC are both related to Eddie. They all share the same last name. And then this werewolf plucks the file out of her hands.
While we have this old-timey cartoon with a wolf on the TV, too. So, which that always reminds me of Eric Balfour's death in the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because there's also an old-timey TV playing, a cartoon playing on the TV in that scene. But yeah, to me, I mean, this is a genuine laugh that I get out of this movie, because it feels like a Looney Tunes bit.
Yeah, and maybe this is actually a very deliberate comedy beat, because if not, why do we have the cartoon? It's a cartoony moment. It's not as big as what we saw in something like Cursed, where we have, the middle finger.
Yeah.
But it's not far off. The fact that this werewolf says, I'm just going to take that from you, and then smacks Terry around, and then horribly kills her. Yeah,
because it's I'm sure I've seen this like a Scooby-Doo thing, where it's they're pulling stuff out of a chest, they're handing it down. So Shaggy hands it to Daphne, Daphne hands it to Fred. It all goes to Scooby. Then Scooby hands it to someone who should not be behind him, but it's the monster in the mask, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this is actually not one full scene. This is not the Helen Shippers chase scene and I Know What You Did Last Summer. There is a middle section that we have jumped over. So basically we get Terry running away, and then we cut back to Karen, and she's waking up, and Bill either hasn't been there all night or he snuck in, and he is kind of readjusting his bandage to be in the right spot, but he is shirtless. And when he goes to climb into bed, she spots, oh, you seem to have lady scratches all down your back from the sexy night that you were having with Marsha. And I love, she calls him on it. He fully gaslights her and says that she is being paranoid.
And he slaps her.
Yeah, because she says, oh, were you with Marsha, that bitch in Heat?
Yes.
And that's when he slaps her. And again, this is signs that Karen is starting to kind of come out of it. She's reclaiming her agency. She's being strong. She takes no shit from this guy. She packs up her shit and she leaves.
Oh, yeah. And good for her. And honestly, we won't really get a ton of Bill after this scene until his death.
Yeah. Which to me just confirms that Karen was always our audience proxy.
Oh, yeah.
Initially, I thought, oh, it's going to be her and Bill investigating this. And then you realize, oh, Bill's kind of a piece of shit. And then you realize, oh, Bill needs to go because it's Karen's movie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's talk about Terry's death. Do you find this sad? Do you find it scary? Is it mean that she's on the phone with Chris when this happens?
I do think it's pretty mean. Because he can hear everything that's happening while this is going. And it's not... It's just that shot where it's the full shot of the werewolf holding her by the neck. And it's kind of they're silhouetted by the light coming in from the windows, which I think are closed with blinds. So it's it's just a really, again, pretty... horrible shot. It's a gorgeous shot, but it's of highlighting violence. It just we don't get to see it rip her throat out, but we do see the aftermath of the prosthetics on her. And and again too, it's we're about to move right into this because I think Karen finds her almost immediately.
Oh yeah, it's basically the next scene because she comes with her bag so that she can grab Terry. I think Karen has come to maybe make a phone call first, but it's oh, this whole place is clearly there was some kind of accident or fight or something because the whole office is in a disarray. But then we see blood on the tape recorder. We see blood on the floor, blood on the hand, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's it happens pretty quickly.
Yeah, but I do care for this character. I'm sad that we lose her, but it's not really. It's again not really much of the film. Maybe it's just the gay in me where I like the gay. I like the lady best friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Terry has done enough to endear herself. And I mean, yeah, as Dante said, you basically brought her in here. She's a red shirt. We probably knew she was going to die, but I think we also thought maybe we were going to have Chris arrive in time, or they were going to be able to get away, drag it out a little bit longer, but no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Karen finds this, but then she also is immediately confronted with Eddie. And I do want to say, maybe this is another comedic beat, but the fact that she found Terry's body, and then when she goes to use the phone because she's freaking out, Karen looks back and Eddie has swapped places with Terry's body. So it's a very kind of Michael Myers.
Yeah.
It's a weird moment.
Okay, but like, so he's talking to her, he's like saying all this threatening stuff, and some of it's pretty rapey, but
Oh, yeah.
The joke that I do like in this, he says, I wanted to give you a piece of my mind before pulling the bullet out of the bullet hole in his head.
I love that we use a kind of fisheye lens just to emphasize how bizarre this moment is, because, I mean, Eddie does not look okay. He's definitely got at least 2 bullets in his head that, yes, he then digs out. And then this is when he starts his extended, bubbling, shirt-ripping transformation. Trace, this goes on for so long.
Okay, so in my notes, I said, the bad movie watcher in me was like, in all caps, bitch, this is taking forever, just kill him. And it made me really happy because, again, this is like the reshoot stuff. And Joe Dante said, yeah, when we showed it to some people, they were like, well, why doesn't she just run away? And the idea is
because she's stupefied.
Yeah, she's too scared to run away. Like, this is all, because, yeah, this is a very lengthy sequence. And with these special effects, so the idea was to take the makeup and actually change it with air bladders and mechanics, so there would be no opticals involved. Again, none of those lap transitions that we were talking about earlier from the old films. As it progressed, they also changed the frames per second in which they shot it. So sometimes normal is 24 frames per second. Sometimes they would go up to 12 frames, so it would look much faster. But then they would also do slow motion for some shots. And during all of this, mistakes were made. Like, they had parts where because they didn't know the give on the air bladder. So sometimes the air bladders just explode, and they'd be like, "Fuck." But that would be covered up when they added the sound later. So like, if something exploded, they would add in the sound of bones cracking that made it seem like it was supposed to happen in the film. So, I mean, this was, technically a quote-unquote messy put-together of a sequence, but it all works because of all the elements in play.
Oh, that's so interesting. I love the idea of using sound design to cover up something that doesn't fully go to plan. Because, yeah, I mean, we haven't talked about it, but the sound design is nearly as painful sounding as American Werewolf in London.
Yeah. Absolutely. And yeah, as you said, it goes on forever. The bubbling is really gross looking. Like, it is.
It's very goopy, icky. My favorite, though, is still watching a snout come forward. It's not as extended, or it's not as significant as American Werewolf in London, but like, there's just nothing better than watching an animal snout push out of a human jaw. It just, it doesn't makes sense. It is so uncanny. It kind of breaks my brain, and I love it.
Yeah. And I mean, I would say you're right. It is a shorter shot than what we get in American Werewolf, but I think it looks just as good as the shot in American Werewolf.
Yeah, no, it's good. And actually, I do think we do it a couple of times as well. So it feels like we're almost getting more bang for our buck, because when we see the rest of the group start to change, we get to see versions of this again. Okay, so Karen does eventually realize, oh, I should probably get the fuck out of here. Why do you think there's just a giant jar of acid in Doc's office here?
So I couldn't tell if there were other, because I was like, do we use acid for like photo development or something like that? Like, maybe there was a practical reason for acid, but yeah, I don't know. Like, there just is a jar of acid.
yeah. There's a couple of jars. One of them is acid. We throw it at Eddie, and then we haul ass out of there. We should note that we have also been seeing Chris start to make his drive up to the colony, because he was obviously on the phone when Terry was being attacked. It was pretty clear that he understood she was in some danger, that she was not safe there even before the attack began. But there is this kind of comedic stinger where he is desperate to try to get through a gas station. And it's the line I used off the top, where this guy just insults him because he's driving a nice Mazda. And he's like, it's an emergency. Okay, so Karen has gotten acid onto Eddie, and she runs out, and she is caught immediately. And she is taken at gunpoint to go and see everybody else at the center.
That's the thing. I was like, oh, wow, we just go right into the climax of this movie.
So everybody is waiting for her. Karen is encouraged by Donna and Doc to accept the gift. So they're very much, kind of the welcoming committee. This doesn't have to be a bad thing. We're all like this, and we've managed to make it work.
Well, and this is where, though, like the interior struggles of this werewolf community come to light, where it's like, like they all disagree. It's like, okay, I maybe that's the thing. Is I get all of this. Like the werewolves are disagreeing. Like, Wagner wants them to assimilate to society, and everyone else is like, we're kind of done with this. We're on Marsha's side. We're just gonna humans are our cattle. Humans are our prey. But because these aren't the main characters, the focus of this film, I don't know, it doesn't feel as organic to this switch.
Do you think it would have helped if one of them had been more of a principal antagonist? Like, would it have helped if Marsha had a bigger role to play in this instead of just saying, well, Doc, you're out, and everybody else kind of agrees with her?
Yeah, or even just a reference to the inter-office politics of the werewolf colony. I don't know.
I don't fully agree with you, if only because I feel like there has been a little bit of groundwork laid. This is the moment where we really see Earl kind of step up and support Marsha and say, we used to hunt and prey humans, and now we just have to be expected to live with them, and that's why he's so despondent. And I think it would have helped to see maybe a bit of resentment, or people saying, I guess this is what we have to do now. We live at this new age camp instead of just being able to hunt people like we want to. Like
even just a passing glance, or like Doc says something and someone else is like rolling their eyes or whatever. Because Earl says flat out, you can't tame what's meant to be wild, Doc. It ain't natural. And it's like, okay.
Right.
But this is kind of, I guess you're right. There has been groundwork laid, but I don't know. It's just very quick.
It all feels very fast as well. Like we've said, we're really barreling through things, and that's good for keeping up the level of excitement and making this feel very, oh my God, things are out of control. Karen's in extreme danger. Is Chris going to get here on time? But this kind of moment where you realize, I wish we just had a better understanding of how this commune worked. What is the designation of roles? Like, I don't even really understand, does Marsha have a role to play in this community, or is she just the outspoken person who disagrees with Doc?
She cooks rabbits.
She's the cook. Yeah. Maybe. Anyway, so they decide, well, even though times have changed, we don't agree with Doc anymore. We don't want to do this failed experiment anymore. So we align ourselves with Marsha, and this is where we essentially say, okay, Doc, it doesn't matter what you want to do with Karen. We're going to do things our way.
Yep. And it's a mutiny, basically.
More or less, yeah. So this is when Chris arrives, and we get to see him more or less discover his dead girlfriend's body. He plays the tape, which just repeats all of the sounds from her attack with Eddie, which is very upsetting.
Yeah.
And this is when Eddie appears. And we should note that the practical effects on this burned Eddie is so good. It's very goopy and disgusting. Because basically, more than half of his face has been melted away. But he's still starting, because it wasn't a silver bullet and it wasn't fire, he's starting to regenerate.
It was giving me, and this, of course, predates Fright Night, but it gives me Chris Sarandon at the end of Fright Night when he's full vampire makeup.
Yeah. So I do also like this. It's a little sexually charged between Eddie and Chris here, where Eddie just keeps calling him a brave boy and encouraging him to shoot. I love that Eddie is so confident. He took the gun with the silver bullets that Chris went to gun. Yeah, and he's like, here, have it back if you really think this is going to help you, because they all just assume that the bullets are regular and they know it won't hurt them. But of course, Chris is prepared, so we just shoot Eddie a couple of times.
And so that is a subversive thing, I think, though. So we kill ostensibly the big bad of this movie before we even get to the full climax.
Yeah, which again, I wonder if that would have worked better. If it had been Eddie saying, no, Doc, we're not doing this anymore, and we know Eddie is a big villain, would that have played better? Maybe it's Marsha who kills Chris.
And because it's Chris who kills Eddie. It's why doesn't Karen get to kill Eddie? Because it feels like that seems to be the most the karmic justice for that. But
Karen only kills one person in this entire movie, and it's Bill.
It's Bill. Yeah, maybe that's the thing. Yeah. And I guess Chris has to have redemption for a retribution for Terry's death.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Chris takes his gun and he goes and discovers that they're essentially planning to murder Karen. Like, we're not going to turn her. We're just going to get rid of her so that she doesn't cause us any more trouble. And this is where Chris starts to just kind of take people out.
Okay,
so
but there's a really funny shot here. So, like, he shows up and he shoots TC and immediately kills him. But like, there's a really funny beat where, like, the colony members, like, they all look down at TC and then they kind of look up at Chris in unison and just believe. Like, I was like, oh, there's your funny moment right there.
Yep. We then take out Jerry, the cattle salesman guy, and we also take out Doc. What did you think of the moment where Doc gets shot and he thanks God because he's relieved?
I like it because it seems to me he's like, oh, this isn't what I intended with this colony. Like, I was really trying to be a good person and, like, you know, make like do something beneficial. And again, it would have been nice to have a bit more breathing room for him to be like, oh my God, like, what hath God or I wrought?
Yeah, the one that I was thinking of, and I think it's later than this, if I'm not mistaken, I was thinking about how this kind of plays out in a better, more effective way for me in The Brood.
Oh, The Brood is the 70s. It's before this. But
okay.
Yeah. That is a really good example, actually, of a comparison to this movie.
Because that one is really indebted to let's spend time in this center and get a sense of what the therapy is like and how it does and doesn't work.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. It would have been 2 years before this came out.
Okay, there we go.
And that actually makes a lot of sense. Again, yeah, we're dealing with all this kind of like new agey health stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, and New World Pictures, a Roger Corman company.
Hey-o. Okay, so we have gotten rid of a couple of werewolves. They understand that we have silver bullets that will take them down and keep them down. And this is where Chris and Karen just essentially push everybody back into this building. We shut the door, even though there's so many werewolves and they're so strong. Apparently we can just bar it and then we light it on fire and they all get real frantic.
It's the Black Spot Werewolf Edition.
I guess so.
The wild, because I always heard about this. So basically, there were parts of this movie where they wanted to use stop motion werewolves since they initially didn't think they were going to have the money for full suits. So they hired stop motion animator David Allen to design some werewolves that would be seen in the barn while it was burning. And I will say, if you watch some of these, like this making of featurette from 2003, you get to see that footage, and it looks really cool. Like, it's basically it's a stop motion werewolves in a barn, like trying to bang out the door while there's fire everywhere. But the reason they didn't keep it in, which is kind of tying back to the animated transformation from earlier, like, it didn't look like the rest of the movie aesthetically. It looked too bright. It wasn't even that the werewolf, like the stop motion, looked bad, but they just couldn't get it to look like the rest of the film.
It looked completely different.
Yeah, like they were going to look like stop motion werewolves. Like, you would be able to, that's stop motion. Obviously, there you go. But they just could not get the look of it to match, to fit in with the film. And so...
Okay, that's a shame.
Yeah, because, I mean, we would have had, obviously, more shots of the interior of the barn if we had this stop motion sequence, but we don't, so it's fine.
I think that this is still really exciting. This works for me. There's this one moment where we see a werewolf trying to push their head through a hole that is not big enough, and you feel the desperation, and I quite liked it.
I do too. And I think the issue is too, because this carries over into the car sequence we're about to get, but like they only had like one werewolf suit. So
wild.
But I think so much of the editing in these final 20 minutes, they really make you think there are multiple werewolves around them at all times.
Yeah. If you hadn't have just told me that, I would have thought that they had about 3 or 5.
Yeah, and that's your low budget resourcefulness.
I mean, we got to make it work. Okay, so we do move the action to the car. Not going to lie, this is actually more drawn out than I would have thought. I would have said, oh, you can just do it where they push them all into the barn, we light it up, and then denouement. Yeah. But no, we got to keep things going. So we get into Chris's car, and a werewolf immediately tacks through the roof. Chris ends up shooting it, but then we drive directly into a trap that's been set by Sheriff Sam, so he's kind of waiting for them. They think they're safe because it never even occurs to them that the sheriff could also be a fucking werewolf.
Which you're like, maybe you should have thought about that.
I mean, if anything, this movie is very anti-establishment. It's don't trust doctors. It's don't trust, members of law enforcement. Like, basically, all authority figures should be questioned in this film. So we do end up getting into a gunfight with the sheriff. It totally looks like the sheriff has shot Chris by the way that this is like filmed, but Chris is never injured. So he just ends up shooting the sheriff. And because we have silver bullets, he's done. But we have nicked, I think, the gas tank is what Chris says. So we have to abandon the car. Yes. It explodes.
I was shocked we get an explosion in this movie. Because, this car just goes up. They get in the cop car. And you're like, oh, good, they're safe now. But...
Yeah. So we swap cars, but we can't get it to start. And this is when it is surrounded by werewolves. So this is one of those moments I thought that there were several at minimum.
Just one.
Yeah, great. So we do end up managing to kind of like get the car started. We have gotten away from these, but this is when Karen gets bitten unexpectedly by a werewolf that is in the back seat. And this is where she really reclaims her agency. So she has the gun in her lap. She just kind of points it over her shoulder at this thing as it is biting her, blows it away.
I gotta say though, like, I feel like firing off a shotgun right next to like both of your ears like that, you're not hearing for a good bit.
Yeah, and we don't really get a great look at Bill's body. We understand because it transforms back into a human and we recognize the tattoo, as Karen does as well. I would have liked it if the head was gone, but we don't have the budget for that. And really, like, we're just seeing the kind of part of a body in the backseat.
Because earlier, like when Chris first gets there, she says, "Oh, wait, I think they've killed Bill too," and so like she assumes Bill is dead. So this is her first confirmation. Oh, like Bill wasn't dead; he was a werewolf, and I just killed him. But there's no moment,
no grieving, no moment of realization. I mean, she recognizes the tattoo, and we see her recognize it, but then we are just into this data. And this is another one of those moments. Like, I truly do think it's the back half of the film where we just need a beat. We need an extra minute or two for many of these scenes to just help them land a little bit better. They're not bad, but they would have been stronger with more time.
I agree.
Okay, so as soon as we realize that this is Bill, Karen wants to blow the whole cover up. So she wants everybody to know that werewolves exist. She needs to get the truth out to the people and help them to believe. So we are back at KDHB. And this is all apparently the same night because they are reporting on the deaths that happened at the colony on the evening news. And Karen comes in with an eyewitness report. So we've touched her up so that she doesn't look quite so bad. But she and Chris have clearly formulated some kind of plan that he doesn't want to go through with. And she more or less tells him, man the fuck up. I need you here with me.
It's good. It's good for her.
Yeah, so we've got the shitty dude, once again, getting ready to, take the camera off her. She freezes again. And then we go to her for a special eyewitness report. And she immediately goes off script. So she starts talking about a secret society that lives among humans. And then she begins to change into a werewolf live on television.
I love that her co-anchor is just like, holy shit.
Yeah, because there was another funny moment earlier where Bill walked in on him practicing this report about like, oh, Karen, one of our own, is out there, but like the guy's just working on his inflection, like KDBM or whatever.
You can't talk about like female assault like in a happy way. You have to practice that delivery to make sure you don't sound happy about female assault.
Right? Yeah. So, I mean, I knew that Dee Wallace was not in the original. We've already recorded our audio commentary on the second film, so I knew that she had died on air. I didn't remember that Chris was the one who did it. For some reason, I thought security barged in and shot her to death. But this is what she needed Chris for, was to make sure she stayed on the air when we tried to cut away from her during the transformation. And then we see her crying as a werewolf, and then he kills her.
I think the first shot when it's still Dee Wallace and she has the teeth in her mouth and like there's that one tear falling down the side of her face.
It's really good.
That to me, that's one of my favorite shots in this film. The way she looks down because she's looking at Chris to be like, please come and do this. And she turns into a werewolf, but it looks more like a dog werewolf.
It's like a cute werewolf.
Yeah, and that was intentional. Like they were like, she's like
they softened her.
Well, yeah, because like she's a good person. Like she's not like the other one, so she's gonna have a. It's almost like Teen Wolf, honestly. But yeah, it is sad. Like, I mean, what I like both about this and American Werewolf is like these are for the most part pretty maybe not jovial movies, but again, like they have a tongue-in-cheek sense of humor about themselves, but they both end very tragically for their main characters.
Yeah, like there's nothing good about a werewolf in these movies. It's, oh no, this is a curse. You are doomed. And I mean, thinking even to something like Ginger Snaps, where we just had that talk with director John Fawcett and Catherine Isabel and Emily Perkins, but like that movie has a total downer, sad ending as well. So maybe it's hard not to do a werewolf movie that feels like a tragedy.
Yeah. I mean, again, like y'all,
you're like Teen Wolf. It's right there.
Well, no, like y'all. I'm sure there are werewolf movies that are like that. Because I mean, again, like think about it's like vampires. Right? How much do we don't sexualize werewolves in the same way we sexualize vampires? Because maybe there's like a bestiality component that makes people really uncomfortable.
I don't know. This movie's horny.
Oh, it's very horny. But as you said, that werewolf lycanthropy is still bad, right? There's not a. Is there a prideful werewolf movie?
Yeah.
I don't know.
We will maybe hear from folks.
I anticipate it.
Okay. So, yes, we see her get killed live on television, and then we get to see people from a variety of different locations see this on television. I will confess, I'm the most delighted by the kids who are just kind of excited because they're like, wow, that was weird and unexpected.
The news lady just turned into a werewolf. Yeah, this is all very great. And it doesn't take away, I think, from the tragedy of knowing that Karen is dead, but it's still funny.
It is, yeah. It's a very good tonal balance. And then our final one is a group of men who are watching this at a bar. And as we kind of alluded to off the top, there's one guy who thinks it's special effects. There's another guy who corrects him and says, like, no, man, we just saw a woman change into a werewolf. And then the final person is a man who's ordering a steak and a hamburger. And the hamburger is for the lady at the end of the bar. And this is our reveal that Marsha has survived and she wants it rare.
And then the credits just play over this burger getting cooked.
Yeah. So this is interesting, right? Because one of Nat Bemmer's kind of concluding ideas in his piece is that this should have teed up Marsha to become one of the kind of all-time female villains. Like, we should talk about her with way more respect as a villainess, because we were poised to get a sequel that would position her as the central antagonist.
Yeah.
And obviously, we instead get our werewolf bitch. Stirba.
Which I guess she would have been like the Marsha kind of... I said it was going to be the other one. Mariana. But yeah, I guess really Stirba would be the kind of closest proxy for Marsha.
Yeah, and it maybe feels like a missed opportunity. We never do get this actress back to reprise her role. I think in either 3 or 4, it's kind of suggested that this is the origin story of Marsha, but obviously it's a different actress and it's not quite the same. Like, it just never comes together. And I think that is a shame, because truly I leave this movie thinking Dee Wallace is fantastic. The special effects are fantastic. And I really like Marsha.
Oh, very much. And Marsha, I mean, does return in the book sequel, The Howling 2. So
there we go. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess it would be movie 3 then.
Yeah, probably so. I mean, we're going to go through these one day, Joe. Sure, yeah. Probably not for the podcast unless we deem it necessary. But I'm really curious to watch all these movies now.
Yeah, but that's The Howling.
That is The Howling. Well, everyone, let us know. What did you think of The Howling? Because I enjoyed revisiting this. But some quick housekeeping before we announce what we're covering next week. If you want to get in touch with us, you can reach us on Blue Sky and Instagram at HorrorQueers. Shoot us an email at horrorqueers@gmail.com. Find us on Letterboxd to keep track of all the films we've covered. If you want to chat with other listeners, please join our Horror Queers Discord. If you have a moment, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you want more content, including ad-free main feed episodes, please support the show by becoming a patron at patreon.com/horrorqueers. If you subscribe today, you'll get 503 hours. We've crossed the 500-hour mark of Patreon content, including this month's new episodes on Terminator 2 Judgment Day, a special for its 35th anniversary, Forbidden Fruits, Saccharin, Evil Dead Burn, the aforementioned audio commentary on Howling 2, Your Sister is a Werewolf, and the conclusion of our requel tier coverage of The Vampire Lestat.
Yeah, busy July.
Busy July, but Joe, what are we talking about next week?
Okay, well, we're going to stick with the 80s. We're going to jump ahead a couple of years, and we're going to cross another milestone gap because we have never talked about Ken Russell on the podcast, folks. I know you're all wishing that we were going to say we're going to cover the Devils, but we're not, because it's still really difficult to track down. Maybe when we get that Cannes extended whatever cut,
ooh, yeah.
Then we can finally fucking cover it. But instead, we're going to do another one, which is a personal fave of both Trace and I.
Mm-hmm.
Only just discovered Crimes of Passion with Anthony Perkins. But oh boy, talk about sleazy and sexy.
Oh, Anthony Perkins' character, who was introduced sniffing poppers, and he wields a bladed dildo before it was popularized by Knife Plus Heart and Seven.
Oh my god. This fucking movie, folks, I know this is going to be a small one because it's probably not super familiar. It's not a very well-known title. If you have never seen Crimes of Passion, do not sleep on this.
It is, I mean, it is style over substance, but oh my god, like,
so stylish.
You have Kathleen Turner saying lines like, "I never forget a face, especially once I've sat on it."
Oh god, I'm so excited.
I am too. But until next week, everyone, we can cross out the Howling.
Indeed, and cross out horror queers.